Okay, everyone, for the next part of activity 4 that we're going to do, we're going to actually be working with multiple layers and groupings. So if you go into back into Classroom for PS Cert Prep activity number 4 and go to the file called convention1.psd, that's the one we're going to open. So if you right-click it, go Open Link in New Tab, and then go in there and hit the download button and give it a couple seconds. Should pop up down here, but it's not. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and open that. And this is essentially just a 3-layer file that we're going to be working with. And I know by now many of you guys have pretty much figured out layers, but I am going to, for the sake of reviewing this and making sure that those people who do understand it, we'll go ahead and do this activity together. So what you're doing first is we need to make sure that the layers panel is open, and it usually is bundled with channels and paths when you do the essentials. If you don't see it, you can go to Window. Sorry, I'm a little laggy here. Window Layers, and it will appear. That goes for anything that's over here. These are the panels. These are all the possible panels you can have open, and some of them you won't ever use possibly, but that's where you find them. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, once you have it open, we want to make sure that the panel layer is below the Read the Classics layer. So to do that, you simply go to the actual layer and drag it down, and you should see a little blue double line up here. And if you do that, you should be able to see Read the Classics, then write one yourself. So while that is selected, we want to press the Shift key and then click the Read the Classics layer. And if you go down to this little icon that looks like a chain link, this will link them together. So what that means is that you can use the Move tool to move one thing and it moves the other thing. Otherwise, this panel would be the only thing that moved if we hadn't selected both and linked them together. But that allows you to move 2 different layers, change the positions of 2 layers at the same time. Alright, so now that you've done the linking of 2 layers, we're going to actually do grouping. And so to create a group, you're going to look down in the bottom of the layers. There's New Layer is the one that looks like a piece of paper with the corner folded over. New Group is the thing that looks like a folder down here. So if you go ahead and click on that, it automatically is going to take anything you have selected and put it into that group. And what that allows you to do, it's more of an organizational thing, but you can click the little caret in order to expand it and to make it contract into the folder. So you can, if you had, for instance, a huge Photoshop file that had a layer for every single part of the body, you had like thumb 1 or left thumb, left pointer, left, and then all the way up through your hand and everything. You could organize everything based on groups and make it so that only when you want to see individual fingers as layers, you can open up a group called hand. Or if you were talking about leg, then that group might have your toes, your foot, your ankle, and so on. So that's how grouping works. And if you double click on the little label there, you can rename it. You can do that with layers as well. So we're going to call this text. And then when you are done naming it that, you can hit enter. You can also create a new group by going up to this little 3-line icon, and that gives you the ability to do new groups, new layers, pretty much anything you can get from a right click on here as well. You can also add things to groups. I'm going to pull one of these out of the group just to show you. You can add things to groups by dragging them in. Because I still had them selected, it automatically grouped them together. But if you didn't have them selected, you can simply drag it into the group and it will appear in there. Alright, so we've named the group text. We've made sure that Read the Classics and Panel are both inside the group. And the last thing we are going to do is go ahead and save it. So if you go File, Save As, we'll call it My Convention. I believe that's what it asks you to call it. Yeah, My Convention 1. Make sure that goes in your documents. For me, it's going to go in my Geometrics projects. I'm going to hit Save. And turn it, go ahead and when you're all done with everything from this activity, you'll turn it in. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do, oh, and let me show you this really quick too. You can actually shut off an eye for an entire group. So if you want to make layers invisible for an entire group, if you click the eye for the group, you can, or you can do individual layers. So anyways, back to the next thing. What we're going to open up next is called Turn Up the Heat to. So if you go back into Classroom and go to where it says Turn Up the Heat to, right click, open link in new tab, and then click on the download on the window that opens, and then give it a second. Should see this. Looks like a little postcard ad, and what we're going to do with this is we are going to follow each of these steps very carefully. So first thing it says to do is, this is probably a good practice to go ahead and save your work to make sure it's in your documents, and for me it's going to be in Geometrics projects. And if you call it My Turn Up the Heat To, that'll identify as yours, or you can put your name in there, whatever. But it's probably a good practice to do it, and then all you have to do is go to File, Save after you've saved it to your documents. Anyways, open it up. We've saved as My Turn Up the Heat To. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to locate the flames layer and we're going to hide it. So to hide it, if you go into the layers here, you got to click the eyeball. If you click the eyeball, it's gone. That's how you hide it. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to select the alarm layer, and you will then we'll be messing with blending modes. So if you go to, sorry, give me 2 seconds. I had this open, the directions open, and then it disappeared on me. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to experiment with the blending modes, and if you look up here, these are the blending modes. Where it says normal at the top of the layers window, those are the blending modes. And so if you go to it from there, you can check out each one of these. I'm going to start off with what it says on here. I'm going to go to soft light and see what that looks like. So essentially it takes some of the lighter areas and makes it lighten the layer below it. The other thing I'm going to try is linear light. See what that does. So linear light gives a little bit more of an overlay. And then the last one we're going to do is called overlay. And you can actually do, check out more of these, see what you like. Differences and exclusion do different things too, where it's it's kind of like a mathematical formula to determine what colors are presented. So it said lastly select overlay. Alright, now we're going to go back and show the flames layer, and you do that again by clicking the eyeball, and then we're going to go to linear dodge from here. So while we have flames selected, we want to go up to where it says linear dodge. Dodging and burning are photography terms. Dodging is when you cover up an area that light is hitting, and that's how you make things lighter. And burning makes things darker, because the way photography works is light is actually burning photoreactive paper, so it darkens areas that light hits more. Alright, so anyways, that's what linear dodge is. And the next step is we are going to select the alarm layer, and then we're going to go to the little menu up here and choose duplicate layer. You can also duplicate a layer by right-clicking it, and you'll see there's one called alarm copy, and then there's one called alarm. So we want to select the alarm copy layer and drag it below logo. So if we drag it up to right about where logo is and then drop it, then from there we're going to set the blending mode to lighten right there. And once we've done that, we are going to set the opacity to 40%. Opacity is the opposite of transparency. So opacity is how not see-through something is. Transparency is how see-through something is. So if something is 40% opaque, it's 60% transparent. You're going to choose 40%. You just have a slider here, or you can type it in, I believe. Yep, you can type it in. And then once you've done that, we want to move the alarm copy over the logo layer and see how that affects it. And you can see it basically just lightens that darker area with whatever intensity of color and light are in that layer. Alright, so then we're going to move, then we're going to save our work. So you go to File, Save. Alright, number 11, it says double click the heat layer. So we're going down to heat and we're going to double click it. Make sure you double click the actual icon and not the label, because if you double click the label, it just prompts you to change the name. And so what this did was selected the text. If we go to the left side of the box, or so, if we go back to the FX layer, we can just single click to select the heat if you can't get out of it. If you go down the FX box, we want to choose outer glow. So if you do that, you're going to get the layer style prompt. You can also get it from the little 3-line menu here. But while we have heat selected, this is going to do the outer glow to that thing. So what we're going to do is click outer glow, and let's see, effects you can add to a check mark outer glow. Also click the words outer glow. Okay, so we want to actually make sure you click this thing that says outer glow, because if you don't, if you just check the checkbox, all it does is it selects that effect but doesn't give you this information. Alright, so then under here we're going to go to where it says structure. We're going to increase the noise level to 30%. So if you go into here and type in 30, and then under elements we're going to set the spread to 20. So type in 20. And then we're going to change the size down here to 30. And once you've done that, there's also, it asks us to check mark stroke and then click on the word stroke so that we can actually access this. We want to set the size to 1 for stroke under structure, and set the position to center. And what that does is it puts the outline over the edge of the letter so that when you make it bigger, it's both going outside of your letter and inside your letter instead of just outside or just inside. Alright, so we've done that. Now we're going to go up to the blending options, and we are going to go to where it says normal. We're going to change that to blending mode of soft light. So there we go. And when you the next thing that we're going to do is click OK on that to commit it. You can see what changed. If you want to turn off the effects here, you can click the eyeball next to effects, and you can see how what you just did changed the design. Alright, so now we're going to go to the heat layer. If we needed to change any of these settings, you could actually go in and double click on the effects, and it pulls it back up here. So what we're going to do now, it says we can turn off the visibility on a certain effect, which I just mentioned, and what we're going to do is we are going to hide outer glow. So if you uncheck the eye there, then you're good. And then if you just go to File, Save, we are done with this portion of the activity.